Hey, new Marvel content. Captain America Civil War was released in 2016, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo once again, starring Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Chadwick Boseman, and Sebastian Stan. And, yeah, I was highly anticipating this back in 2016. The Civil War storyline is one of my favorite all-time Marvel storylines. Um, I was highly anticipating a film adaptation of Civil War. They brought back just about everybody except for the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor and Nick Fury for this movie. So, yeah, I was really excited for this back when it was first coming out. So, how does it hold up 9 years later? Let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off with the good, there's still a lot to really like here. First of all, Chris Evans as Captain America, still as great as he always has been. This is not my personal favorite portrayal of Captain America from him. That still goes to the Winter Soldier. But this is probably my second favorite portrayal of Captain America from him. And yeah, he absolutely nails this role just as he always does. I love Chris Evans as Captain America in this movie. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man. I really like what Robert Downey Jr. does with this character in this movie especially. He's always been a top tier comic book movie casting, make no mistake. But this movie really gave him a lot of depth that some of the past movies just didn't do. Now, that's not to say that past movies didn't give him depth, because they did. But this is the first movie where I feel I started to really connect with him on an emotional level. I thought Robert Downey Jr. was great. He had a great motivation throughout the movie. He gives a great performance. He has fantastic back and forth with Chris Evans, which is something that the MCU was really known for back then, was the chemistry between Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. They play off each other very well. They're polar opposites, but they have a somewhat of a respect for each other. I really love how they both play off each other. And then you get a lot of characters in this movie. This was basically Avengers 2.5 back when it first came out. First of all, you get William Hurt back as Thaddeus Ross. And MCU fans now forget his appearance in this movie was a really big deal, because from the 8 years between The Incredible Hulk and this movie, the Incredible Hulk was kind of the redheaded stepchild of the MCU. It was not mentioned. It wasn't talked about. Abomination. What is Abomination? Who was Samuel Stearns? We've never heard of General Ross. Mark Ruffalo replaced Edward Norton. So having William Hurt return as Thaddeus Ross was a very big deal back in 2016. And he was really good here. This is probably my favorite portrayal of Ross from him, even though I really like the more hardened military guy that he played in The Incredible Hulk. He's much more of a, I don't know how to put it, like a collected antagonist type character. I really like what William Hurt brought to this character. Really great. Don Cheadle as Rhodey, really great here. I love his character arc, and honestly his entire character arc past this. This is where Rhodey really starts to shine as a character. And like I did like him in Iron Man 2 and even Iron Man 1 when Terrence Howard still played him. But this is where I really started to go, okay, Rhodey is a really cool character. And Don Cheadle really brought that to the table here. So, points there. Paul Rudd comes back as Ant-Man for this movie, and he easily steals the show for a little bit. He's in it. I really liked him. And this movie introduced two new characters. First of all, we get our first appearance of Spider-Man in the MCU with this movie, where Tom Holland first portrays Spider-Man. And he made a huge impact when he first appeared in this movie. I I really love what Tom Holland does with Spider-Man in this movie. It's very classic Spider-Man. Now, I have had my personal issues with how he was handled in his solo movies, but regardless, I think Tom Holland overall is still a good Spider-Man, and this was a fantastic introduction for him. Then we get introduced to Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman. And this is probably my favorite character of the movie. First of all, Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace, absolute powerhouse actor. They could not have picked a more perfect man to play T'Challa. He was just unforgettable in this role. All the way to the point, they didn't recast him when he passed away, which I know a lot of people were pretty angry about that. I've already spoken my piece in the Black Panther Wakanda Forever review. This is an absolute iconic casting. Chadwick Boseman gives an absolute powerhouse performance. Honestly, damn near Oscar worthy with his monologue in this movie. He's got a lot of great monologues, especially at the end of the movie. Just absolutely terrific. I love everything about this character. Just love it to death. Then you get Sebastian Stan. He comes back as Bucky, and I really love his character arc throughout this movie as well. He's not a villain anymore in this movie, but he's still got a really great character arc. And finally, you get the main villain of the movie, Zemo, played by Daniel Bruhl. And back in 2016, I was not a fan of this portrayal of Zemo. But it's really grown on me over time, and thanks to another project that I will be reviewing as part of this series, he's really grown on me. I really like what Daniel Bruhl does with this character. I thought that he brought a gravity to the character of Zemo, and his motivation was really personal and really, really well done, really well handled. Some of the schematics of his plan I'm going to talk about in a minute. But yeah, I really love what Daniel Bruhl does with Zemo in this movie. Now, we're going to talk about the story here. And for the most part, it's a really good story. A big, epic action scene at the beginning of the movie, which kicks the events of this movie into motion, in which the superheroes are divided on should we register with the government or should we continue operating as an independent entity. And anybody who's read the Civil War comics knows that it devolves into an all-out war. Iron Man is leading one side, Captain America is leading the other side. And really, really great conflict in this movie. Now, it's nowhere near as epic and big as the actual Civil War comic. There was absolutely no way they were going to be able to pull that off in one movie, but I still really enjoy what they were able to do with the conflict here. The action scenes are phenomenal, as they always are in the Russo brothers MCU movies. The airport fight, I've seen a lot of people make fun of that fight, mainly from Zack Snyder fans. But I really like what that fight represents. It represents a big the breaking point of the Avengers, and yeah, I really enjoyed that. The score and the soundtrack really great. The editing fantastic. The pacing is really great here. This is a 2.5-hour movie, and by the time it ends, I'm like, I thought it was longer. I thought that this movie could have gone on for another 30 minutes and I would not have felt the runtime at all. The humor surprisingly works. For a storyline as serious as Civil War, I feel like the humor shouldn't work, but it oddly does. So, congratulations. You made the humor work in a story that's supposed to be dark and serious. So, really great there. That's about all for the good. On to the bad. And there's really only a couple things that I'm not a fan of. First of all, I was not a fan of just how convenient Zemo's whole plan was. I don't know, I feel like I might be the only one with that thought, but I don't know. A lot of his plan revolved around convenience and things happening right when they did. That's just a movie trope, though, but something I had to talk about. And then finally, I was not a fan of how absolutely terrible they wasted Crossbones in this movie. Now, I get there has to be a tragedy to set the events of this movie in motion, but do we really have to fridge Crossbones in the first 15 minutes? After all that build-up in The Winter Soldier, he just gets blown up in the first 15 minutes of the movie. Regardless, that's all for the bad, so on to final thoughts. I really did enjoy this movie. I thought that this is a really great MCU. Not quite top tier for me as it is for a lot of people, but I still really enjoy it. Captain America Civil War was a really thrilling film. I really enjoy it. I have a lot of fun with it every time I rewatch it, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So that was my thoughts on Captain America Civil War. Have you seen this movie? Let me know down in the comments what you thought about it if you have seen it. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.